Welcome to Mentor's Mind, Season 3, Episode 4, where we're on my rooftop for those of you watching. And for those of you listening, you might hear some birds and the sounds of the city of Amsterdam in the background. Today I'd like to run you through my vibe coding flow. This is something where over the past week or two, some friends have been asking me about it because, I'm a programmer by trade, at least in part, and I used to write all my code by hand. And now for especially fun side projects, I end up outsourcing it to AIs. So I got my laptop right here, and I'm going to explain a little bit what I'm going to do, and then I'm just literally going to show you a side project that one of the AIs is going to make for me tonight as I sleep. What you need to know about my setup is that I've already set up all the peripheral information that my AIs need. So for those of you that use Claude Code, you might be familiar with the claude.md file, which sets preferences. There's a more generic standard that's developing called the agents.md file, which is in your .agents folder in your home directory. If all of these words mean nothing to you, forget about it for now. If this is something that intrigues you, I have a little utility I'm going to be using called Babysit, which is the homebrew harness that I make around the other LLM harnesses, so that it keeps going as I sleep. And my flow usually, when it comes to side projects, begins with a ramble. So what I'm just going to do right here, I'm going to figure out later how I'm going to splice my laptop screen into view when I'm not a very sophisticated video editor. So I'm just going to be talking along what I do for those that are just listening. And for those of you who are watching, either you're going to be looking at me intently, staring into the camera and back at my laptop, or if I figure out how, and if it's not too much effort, then I might make a slightly prettier edited version. So I'm right now in my dev folder, which is just a folder on my in my home directory. And for this new project, I am going to create a new directory. We're going to create a video thing that I've been curious about recreating. I'll tell you about that in a second. Actually, I'll do that first. So I used to go on these trips. I still go on a lot of trips, and I had this app, an Android app that I really liked, that allowed you to create like a little day project, and then throughout the day you'd record like a second or two of something you were doing. It was a bit like the 1 second a day thing, only within a day. So within a day, just like a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, and then very low effort at the end of the day. I would say like make video, and it would make a little like day in review video. Very badly edited. I'm gonna assume that if I'm ever fortunate enough to get kids, that I will make these kind of videos, and these will be the new version of like the cringy home videos. Anyway, that's kind of what they felt like to me, and I really enjoy them. And I actually occasionally still make them with the camera that I'm looking at right now, but it's much more effort. It's recording videos, getting some editing software either on a laptop or on a phone. It's annoying. And I was telling a friend about this, and then I thought, I'm not going to recreate this app by hand. That would be way too much effort because the original app had disappeared. But I can have a robot do it. And me being me, I despise app stores at this stage, so I would like it to run in a browser so that anyone can use this without needing to install anything. So I have this pet project domain, which is gratis.sh, or in my mind, Dutch gratis.sh. Where I host all my little side projects. And so we're going to create the gratis video app today, so the intent is to be able to create one of those like little after movies of the day with a low effort. So I'm in my home directory. I'm going to create a new directory, make directory, we'll call it gratis video. Oh, no. And I'm going to enter that folder. I'm going to open my VS Code, which is the editor that I'm using. I see I already made the screen quite big, so you guys can read along. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to create a new file called ramble.md for Markdown. And so I'd like to just emphasize, this is not how I work for work professionally. If I'm doing something that I'm being paid for or that I care about security boundaries, do not work this way. But for low effort side projects, this is excellent. What you have to know about the preferences that I told the AI about me is when I give it instructions for a throwaway pet project, I want it to be browser-based, front-end only, so that there's nothing to compromise. So even if it makes some stupendous mistake, the worst that could happen is, I don't know, the browser crashes, or you know, memory loop, CPU loop, battery heats up, too bad. So whatever I'm going to ask it to do, it will keep my preferences in mind. So we are going to look at how it's going to turn the ramble into a specification, but just keep in mind, whatever I'm saying now, I have a lot of implicit things that I know the AI already knows about me. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger through a hotkey a little program called Handy, which is an open source kind of like voice typing thing. There's a lot of apps like this. I used Voice Inc. for a little while. That was very nice. Oh, hello, bird. Hi. Yes, you're welcome to join. Just don't poop on the couch. Thank you. Ah, excited little guy. So I'm going to open Handy, and I'm just going to ramble my app idea at it with anything that comes to mind. All right, so Control Command E, little thingy pops up. I want to create a web app where the goal is that a user that wants to document what they're doing in a day can do so by recording little video snippets. The flow I'm looking for is someone will open the web app. When they're on a web app, they'll see a list of previously generated videos that they created. You can consider these days like projects, because perhaps someone might make multiple videos in one day, so I don't want it to be purely date-based. First, we'll see a list of previous videos. When there is none, there'll be like a little plus icon somewhere. I'm thinking maybe like in the bottom, in the middle, like with one of those task bars at the bottom that we could potentially use for tab UI later. We're going to assume someone's going to be using this on a mobile device, though it needs to be compatible with desktops and laptops as well. Before the user does anything, do a little quick check in the background to see whether we have access to camera and mic. Don't ask for permissions yet. Whenever a user creates a new project, this project will be put in memory as like the currently active project. So basically what I want is if someone activates a day or created a video for a day, whenever they open the web app, the page that they default to is going to be assuming that they're working on the video of today. So the goal is that whenever the user's going throughout their day, they can quickly whip out their phone and then add a little video to their project. The video recording should be a little record button, also in the bottom in the middle. It's there because that's the way I've seen camera apps do it on cell phones. When the user holds it, video will record. When the user lets go, video will stop recording. And actually, I want you to create a dual functionality where if the record button is pressed and held, it keeps recording. But if the user taps, then the recording just starts. And if he taps again, it'll stop. So you're going to have to do some sort of detection between like tap and hold. If this is too complicated, you can just leave it out and choose a sane default. When a video is recorded, so when the user lets go of this record button or presses the stop button, the video is just added to the queue of this day. There's no dialogues, nothing will be asked of the user, and they can do this as much as they want during a day, which will just create a queue of videos that is stored browser side. In case it wasn't obvious, we're not using a backend. Everything will be browser-based. Whenever the user wants to, they can compile the video, and the way that will work is there's some button that's obvious in the interface, perhaps something that looks like a share button or like the export button I've seen in iMovie. Actually, scratch that. The iMovie thing it's a terrible UX. I confuse where it is every time. A share button. There will be a share button when the project's open. When the user chooses to share this video, when they click the share button, the web app will ask them where they want to share it, but it will always be a file. So use the native system dialog, but make it clear to the user somehow that the video needs to be compiled first. Like, I'm not sure if we should be compiling it in the background already, or if that's something that's relatively heavy to do in browser on a mobile device. So perhaps do a little bit of research on what's the best way to do that. Yeah, whenever the user shares the file, like if they share it to the file explorer, or they share it through like an app on their phone, like WhatsApp or something, actually check if that's possible at all. I don't know if a web app can share it to WhatsApp with the file dialog. I think so, but I'm not sure. But so think of something good, basic good UX. That's a good basis. Add a little settings button on the home screen that has a few settings about what to compile the video to. So we're talking, if the browser can do multiple codecs like H642, no, H264, Jesus, or 265, check if that's possible in browser. If so, make it an option, but don't ask the user by default. Just set some sane defaults and make them configurable. All right, that's it. Control Command E. All right, it's transcribing now. So we're going to populate the Ramble file. I have no idea how much text that was actually. So the little handy tool that I'm using, so it's called Handy. It's very handy. It runs the model locally. So this is actually quite nice also when working offline or like in bad internet kind of situations. But as you can understand, the longer you ramble, the longer it takes to transcribe. So while it's transcribing, I'll describe what I'll do once it's done. So the next step, once we have a Ramble markdown file, is I'm going to open the coding agent that I'm using currently. There we go, the Ramble is transcribed, which I think we're going to be going with Codex, which is OpenAI's thing. Let's see, I'm just going to remove the last two sentences of this Ramble file. Oh no, it lost half of it. Oh no, never mind, it didn't. Just little things pop. Oh yeah, I was describing the handy app there. All right, so I've created the ramble.md. I'm going to switch to my terminal. I realize that I haven't updated my little babysit harness yet. So what's happening on my screen right now is I typed babysit update. This is the harness that I made. So it's like a little tool that wraps around Claude Code, around Codex, around Gemini. It wraps around any coding agent. It was inspired by the day where, for some reason, Anthropic messed something up in Claude Code, and the thing just went bad. Afterwards, what they claimed was they changed the Claude Code default reasoning to medium, but even when it would put it right back up to max, just the thing just got completely garbled. Stopped following instructions, stopped using my my preferences, and that's the day where I was like, maybe I should not rely on Claude Code so much. So I'd been creating this little wrapper called Claudius, Sir Claudius in my head, and then I created Babysit, which is sort of a wrapper that doesn't just work for Claude Code, but also for Codex and a couple of other ones. And as I'm looking at this, I realized I should have run this update before starting this video. So if this fails again, I'll just run it in native Codex. So the reason for this wrapper is what I'll do once we have the specification is I'm going to let it run with infinite permissions, so full permissions for my whole desktop. And that's not something I want without a sandbox. So Babysit creates a little sandbox. Looks like we're going to be using an outdated Babysit, which is fine. Babysit Codex, YOLO mode. And I hope that the old Codex version is still respected by the OpenAI backend. We'll give it a second to boot up. So it's started. We have OpenAI Codex open, GPT 5.5 at extra high. I'm giving it my default prompt, which is done through Babysit. Basically, it tells Codex where to find my preferences, the memory system that I wanted to use, For those of you that want to dive into this, in the show notes, I'll put like a link to Babysit and my agents directory. You can look at my preferences. I don't recommend you just copy paste what I do. This is highly specific to me, and it's got some things that a lot of people, a lot of programmers just don't like. All right, while Codex is initializing with all my preferences, I'm going to already give an instruction. Read the ramble.md file in which I, in an unstructured way, brain dumped an app that I want to create. I want you to write this into a specifications.md file based on the preferences that you know that I have. Write them to a specification.md file. Keep in mind that that specification file will be read by an AI like you at a later point in order to actually implement this app. Enter. And now we let Codex run, or cook. And I think this is a good moment for me to pause the video for a second, because this usually takes longer than a minute or two. All right, so our AI friend is done writing the specification, and I will pull it up over here. It created a specification.md file. Call it the local first daily video journal. We're going to think of a different name than that. It's stated a purpose: build a mobile-first web app for recording short video snippets throughout the day and exporting them as a single shareable video file. Check. All right. Skimming this because, note, this is a pet project. We're not actually going to read this in all that much detail. This looks like it's sticking to my intentions. It's using the tools I want. So the specification is pretty long. It's about 600 lines. We're not going to read this because this is vibe coding, so we don't do that here. Usually, if you'd be working on something a bit more serious, like if you're thinking like, hey, I'm actually going to create an app for internal use or something, like this is really just me playing around, you will read the specification in more detail. Usually what I notice is sometimes there are some assumptions that the AI makes that you might want to improve upon, though I also have to admit, most of the time, it's spot on. It's fine. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, I can do two things right now. So either I can now tell it, go implement the specification.md, and then it will do so. Or I can close Babysit, and I can run this with a loop command. So the harness I made, so Babysit, it has a functionality built in where if I tell it, I want you to loop, then every time when it notices that the complete development was done, there's no more activity in this terminal, there's nothing running in the background, it will type a message of my choosing, or actually a couple of messages. And in my case, I think my default loop file, I could actually just pop it up, we don't need to assume. My loop.md currently says, so every 30 minutes, or in my new structure, it doesn't respect that every 30 minutes, it just loops when there's no activity. First it types /clear, so it clears the memory. This prevents the agents from saying, I already fulfilled that request, which is, kind of defeats the purpose of the looping. Tells it to read the specification of this project and make a plan to analyze the application code to make sure the application has all features fully and properly implemented. Add missing functionality, fix broken functionality. The AIs are pretty good at one-shotting, just getting things done, but they sometimes make assumptions. And having it do this is inefficient. With future models, they're much better. I hope we don't have to do this anymore. But right now, we're just going to burn through a couple tokens, a lot of tokens, if we're honest, and just tell it, hey, look at your work again. Make sure you did it right. Once it's done with that, it'll type a new message. Make a plan to analyze the test suite if there is one. Make sure essential user paths are covered. Add missing tests. Then run a test suite. Then fix broken tests. And once it's done with that, make a plan to use the browser MCP server to browse the application as a user would. Oh, typo. Click around and inspect functionality. Add missing functionality, fix broken functionality. Make sure that you keep an eye on the browser console for errors and warnings. Fix those as well. Remember that you are allowed to install any dependencies to make the browser MCP work. Feel free to install any browser you like. That last bit is only true because my agents run in a Docker container where they have full sudo privileges. I've only mounted the working directory they're in, so within their little container, they are God. Outside of that, they can't touch my system. Presuming Docker doesn't have some CVE I don't know about, which is perfectly plausible, conversation for a different day. I do the best I can. In the case of our app, I suspect this last bit where I ask it to click around the browser like a user might fail because the browser that the Docker container will have won't have a camera because I won't have that mounted. But in general, I add this because when the LLM just writes code, it checks its own work, quote unquote, by checking its own assumptions. So it just looks at the code that it wrote, checks, does this look legit? Yes, okay, then it's probably fine. It might write tests for it even, but it sometimes gets a little bit circular where its assumptions get embedded. And the nice thing about having it actually open a browser and click around as a user, it can just sort of adopt a user persona. And funnily enough, it sometimes just notices annoying user things, you know, icons that are a little bit misaligned, things that don't look or feel right. So I found this quite helpful. So what I'm going to do, I am going to exit babysit for now. We're going to start a new run, but we're going to use the loop flag, which will make it type the loop file that I just showed you. We're starting a new session, so it's like it's relatively inefficient. I'm resending the default prompt of like, hey, read the memory notes. And then we're going to give it instructions. And I'm going to use voice typing so those of you that are listening can follow along. It's a very complex instruction. Implement the specification.md. That's it. All right, it says it's initialized. Excellent. Bam. All right, and now I'm going to go to bed. The sun is setting, the sky's beautiful. I am going to pause you guys, and I'm going to wake up in the morning, and we're going to see what rolled out of this. So we're back. It's about 2 days since I recorded the last snippet. I've been a little bit busy, and in the meantime, I have deployed the app and done a little bit of back and forthing with the AIs. And I'll quickly take you through what went well and what went less well. And the less well bit, I think, is a bit more interesting when it comes to the vibe coding flow. So in essence, what went well? I woke up the next day, I opened the app, and in principle, it did what it needed to. So I took one of the existing projects that I deployed, which is a free AI tool that runs the AI in the browser. And I basically copied the repository into the Codex CLI within Babysit and told it, deploy this to Cloudflare in the same way that I did for this other project. Of course, I had to make some API keys for the GitHub Actions. I created a subdomain on the domain that I'm hosting on Cloudflare. And I'm using Cloudflare Workers, formerly the Pages functionality, to host because it's very cheap, very fast, very good. Cloudflare is just very nice. I did, however, run into some issues. So in principle, the app does what it needs to do. I can record video snippets and it would stitch it together. The two things I noticed that weren't so great. One, for some reason, the video was very zoomed in, like cropped. And I went back and forth a couple times and told it like, hey, the video's cropped, fix it. It did some magic, it fixed it, it didn't fix it. And this is the interesting thing. Once an AI gets stuck in a little corner, sometimes it just doesn't get unstuck. So I went back and forth. I tried with Codex, I tried with Claude, but you know, this is a vibecode project. I'm trying not to do anything manually. But I did do a little thinking, and then I realized there's more cameras on the back of this phone than one. So I asked it like, hey, did you account for the fact that there could be multiple cameras? And of course the answer was no, I did not. Certainly you are correct. So that is a case where once I told it to do that, that was indeed the issue. It was using one of the cameras that has more of like a zoomed in portrait mode. And so now it implemented that. I can select the camera. It by default now selects, I think the cameras are numbered from like 0 to 3 in my case, and it just takes the lowest one, which has a pretty good wide view. I think it's the default camera from the camera app. But this is an interesting thing with, well, any AI coding, specifically vibe coding, if you're not touching any of the code. If I would have wanted to manually debug this, it would have taken a long time because in essence, it will be akin to taking over the software of a colleague or a friend, and I'd need to like read up on everything that has been developed. But here you see the advantage of having some experience programming-wise and just thinking logically about software challenges. In the end, the solution was very simple, straightforward. It just needed to account for a couple cameras. Likewise, I noticed that the video quality was a little bit choppy. So I asked it like, hey, what could be the source of that? How did you implement this? And it turns out it's implemented it in kind of an odd way where it was recording the camera feed, then stitching the videos together by painting them onto an HTML canvas and then sort of like stitching them together like that. So we had a little back and forth, asked it, what is a more efficient way of doing this? It gave me a very nice library that exists, Media Bunny, I think from the top of my head, which looked great. And it said, but you're going to run into issues if you have multiple video formats. But of course I could tell it, well, I'm going to be recording on one device. This is an app that I'm just making for me. This is not some super robust application that I want people to use cross-device for like super important things. So in the end, implemented that, and now it works. I actually used it yesterday. I make these homemade protein bars, and I was making a batch for a friend, and I recorded a little video. I will stitch it into the end of this video. So for those of you listening, if you want to see the result of this application, you can actually see it if you go to the video version of this on mentor.email. That'll point you to the Substack where you can see the email. And yeah, that is basically the flow that I use for vibe coding. And just to clarify again, this is not for serious work things. This is for, hey, I got this throwaway idea. I just want something fun to work with, something for personal use where it doesn't really matter if the code is like that robust. And from a security perspective, everything I make in this way is very bounded. I only make front-end web apps. So things where even if the whole thing was completely compromised, the worst that could happen is the browser is unhappy. There's no user accounts. There's no databases. I'm not accessing any data. Nothing financial. It's all just, either it works or it doesn't. And upside, with progressive web apps, they do also work offline. So you can have that little bar pop up at the bottom if you want. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to ask our little AI friends to do so, which says add to home screen, and then it will just add it to the home screen, and it functions mostly like an application. The UX, if you want to sell this to users, isn't the same because people don't really, progressive web apps never really made it into the public consciousness. But as a developer, if you're just making stuff for yourself, it's pretty good. The one thing that's interesting in the development flow, before I close off, what I like to do is, one of the flows in my agents.md, what I tell my coding agent to do is when it's done, it's supposed to output a list of all the commits that it's made with the commit hashes, so that I can easily, in a window next to it, open a competing LLM, either the same code, like the same agent, like model, or a different one. And I like to play Codex and Claude off of each other, and then just grab the commits that in my case Codex made, and then tell Claude, hey, review these commits, list bugs. And in the harness I made, Babysit, I just give Claude like read-only access to the repository, so it can read, it can make a report. I know it's not going to mess anything up. And then, basically I paste that report back into Codex and tell it, hey, look at this report and fix anything that's worth fixing. And if I'm fully vibe coding like I was with this, I don't even check whether I think the bugs are worth fixing. I just let the AI decide itself. Alrighty, that about sums it up. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. If you got this on Substack, that means you got it through email, so you can just respond to this email. It's interesting how many of you just respond to emails as opposed to commenting on the Substack page. Perfectly acceptable. And those of you that know me personally, feel free to send me a little WhatsApp message if you have any questions. And see you soon. Also, let me know what you thought of that last episode I did with Kat, the sex therapist. She's a good friend and was really fun to record. And if you like random conversations with random friends of mine, let me know and I will make more. Have a nice day.